Alright, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Lieutenant Johnson, and welcome back to our next established fall-in analysis product. And so now we've gone through an introduction, we've done our legacy data pull, and now we've got our DEAMS data pulled and off to the side. So let's start building the product. What we're going to do first is we're going to open up just a blank Excel book, and notice that I just have book 1 Excel. It's just a blank database. A blank Excel workbook. What we're going to end up with, once we're all done, is we're going to go in and I'm just going to save it right away. So I'm going to save it in the same folder that we saved our other data, and I'm just going to name it. So name it however you want to do it. Fall-in analysis product. Sounds good to me. So I'll just go ahead and save that. So now I have something that's established and saved. So the nice thing that Excel allows us to do is it allows us to take raw data from external systems, save it into one location, and then create an analytic product that will always have those pivot tables, it'll always have those graphs, and all it does is in the background give us new data over top to continually update it. So it stops us from having to export legacy data and export DEAMS data and then take the raw data every time we want to look at it, analyze that in certain ways, and then make it there. It's just repeatable. So what we do that is we do that through data connections. So go ahead and click in the cell. You're going to click on the data tab, and then you're going to go up here to your existing connections. And when we go into existing connections, what it's going to do is it's going to look around and say, okay, what connections have you already established? What connections do you need to continue to establish? And where do we want to go from here? So once existing connections comes up, we're just going to go ahead and browse for more. And now this is where you just need to remember where you saved that data set of information. So under here we know we saved it under fall-in, fallout, and we're going to start with our legacy product. So I remember that we named it fall-in raw legacy only, and then we're just going to open. And now once it opens, it says, okay, what tab do you want? Alright, that's the table I want, and then I want to bring it in as a table. You could bring it in just as a pivot table if you wanted to, but we're going to do other things to it, so we're just going to go ahead and bring it in as a table. So now it brings it in right here. Now you ask yourself, well, I thought Excel was a table in a tabular-based spreadsheet. It is, but inside of Excel, these data tables become dynamic. They expand, they allow us filters, they allow us sums, they allow us everything else. But one of the biggest things they allow us is the opportunity for a helper column. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to name this, and I'm going to name it Legacy Raw. And when I name it that, I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to make it a tab color of red, because red means to me I don't want to touch that tab again. And so now we're going to do the exact same thing with the DEAMS. So all we're going to do is go down here to add a new sheet, and we're going to come right back up here to data and existing connections and browse for more. Go back to that same location folder that I wanted to save that in. Now I'm going to look for that GL transactions fall-in information. Now notice there's two different products. There's the original export of the 97-2003 that comes out of DEAMS at 1.3 megs. And then there's a macro-enabled notebook that's at 411 kilobytes. So that's a substantial difference in size. I like to connect it to that because as your reports get larger, and a rule of thumb is the smaller data in, the smaller data out, and the better user experience on that end. So just go ahead and click that, and click open, and we're going to bring that in, and notice that sometimes in DEAMS you're going to have all these macro tabs. Just make sure you're finding the right sheet, and sometimes it's just labeled sheet 1 that you're looking for. And we're going to bring it in again as a table. So once we bring in DEAMS, now we have all of our DEAMS data and all of those individual headers that go all the way across. So like I said, now that we have these data tables, we can go down and start doing other things. So let's just name this DEAMS raw, and then let's give it a tab color of red, because again, we don't want to touch it. But there's going to be one more data set that we want to bring in to this product for data connection before we start the helper columns. So what we want to do is we want to go to the internet, and we're going to open up DQS. So once we have our internet open, what we're looking for is we're looking for our DQS, and right here in the properties you'll notice that it's just an HTTPS file. It goes all the way across, and if you don't have the new link, it's out there available on our website. But what you want to do is you want to go out to DQS, and you want to give it consent to run. And the reason we're going to pull direct from DQS, as I mentioned in another video, is object class and CRIS does not give you all of the OCs in Legacy, and it doesn't give you a description of them. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get all of our EEC assignments taken care of, right? So element of expense investment code, EEC, for legacy. So just go ahead and click that, and then click retrieve all, because it's dedicated as an Excel. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull a raw data file of every Excel EEC that's out there. And once it ends up running, we're going to be able to save that and then import that data. So now we can go ahead and save it as, and right here we're going to go back to our fall in, fall out, and we're going to say EEC listing, and we're going to save it. And now when we open it, here's what you can notice right away. Notice it has all of this different data types in it. Well, department, sorry, I don't want you there. Why? Because what I'm going to be looking for mostly is the EEC. It's easier when you work with certain formulas, including VLOOKUP and index match and other things that are going to be pivotal to your helper columns, that your information you're looking for is in the farthest left-hand column. Well, there's our title, there's our description, and these are mostly the same things all the way down. So for me, I just want to get rid of description. It's a waste of time. Redirect, not necessary. Go on. Status is nice because sometimes you want to keep the historical or the current. The object class we don't need, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I am going to keep my object subclass, and I'm going to delete everything else to the right because I no longer need that information. So now what we have is we have all of our data nice and neat taken care of. Now one thing that is always convenient to do is you can go through here and rename all of these USGS perms or USGS others, everything else, CivPay, and clean that data up as you need to. The reason that helps is because it takes care of everything else. So it's just a very simple click. Go up there to sort and filter, and all I do is click in this upper left hand corner where that little triangle is. It highlights the entire sheet. We're going to filter it, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to text filters, begins with 1. Okay. And so now what I have is I have all of the EECs that begin with the number 1. There's going to be some in here that don't necessarily take care of it, but all I'm going to do for my title is I'm going to click CivPay, and I'm going to double click as soon as it turns to that. So here we turn to this column right here. As soon as that solid plus, I'm just going to double click and it takes it all the way down. If I use this with the multi-directional arrow, it tries to move that data all over the place. And if I keep it with that thick plus sign and click, then all it's going to do is try and highlight it. But now what we have is every EEC is assigned to CivPay that begins with the number 1. And then you go back in here, clear those filters, and it brings back in all of your data. And since CivPay is such a large part of Fallen and Fallout, it's nice to be able to get those all lumped in. And then I just go ahead and save that and X out. And now we're going to go ahead and bring in that data connection. So add a sheet, add a data from an existing connection, browse for more, find your Fallen and Fallout folder. There's my EEC listing. And now notice there's two different here. We don't want the filter database, we just want the data elements. And bring it in as a table. And now what we have is we have our entire EEC listing. And again, I'm going to make that red because I don't want to touch it when I go forward. And so now we have our 3 established data connections there. The last thing that you need to do is just go ahead and name those tables in a short name. So I'm going to name that EEC. I'm going to name this Deems Raw. And on Legacy, because notice if I'm over here and I'm clicked, I don't have this Table Tools dialog box up top. If I click there, now I have this Table Tools dialog box, and that's where I'm naming these. So right here, I just go in and I put Legacy Raw, and you'll see the benefit of those in just a moment. But now we have 3 data connections that are established that can be refreshed once we download new data, and we're going to start the next video with helper columns. So again, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.